Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy weekend after Canada Day. And for a lot of you, today is off. So thank you for joining me. I didn't get the memo. I have to keep working because we have important work to do. But thank you all very much for hanging out on Canada Day with me. I do want to first start off with an apology. I did mean to keep it to 10 hours. And I should have. Shortly after shutting it off at about 7.5 hours, a whole bunch of people hit me up and said, "Hey, look, I'm ready to come on." So apologies to everybody that wanted to come on, and I ended it early. So my apology to my entire audience that next time I will do the full 10 hours. If I say 10 hours, it'll be 10 hours. I was just getting really tired, not an excuse. So I learned my lesson on that one. I will make sure I stick around next time. So, but thank you to everybody who did show up. We had Maggie Hope Braun show up. We had Dawn Beth show up. We had, oh my gosh, there's so many. We had some new faces. Fred something. He has a radio show up from the mountain. We met him. We had Kevin on. We had Zario on. We had a lot of familiar faces on. So, said Chris Dacey was on. Yeah, we had a good time. And if you want to go back, go to my Twitter. There's a clip of Maggie having a bomb scare in front of her home. So she got to wake up on Canada Day to an explosive device near her home, and they had to deal with it. That was caught live on the stream, including the little boom when they detonated whatever it was they were dealing with. So check that out. I also want to thank Canada. I launched my book on Saturday as well. So Canada Day. So it's Bearing Witness, the ethical, legal, and practical guide to recording and sharing history. So I appreciate that the fact that some people went and picked it up, and we're now number 2 in evidence. And there you go. Order my book. We're now number 2 in the evidence and legal witness categories. So thank you all very much. You can get your copy online on Amazon right now. I am looking at other places to put it. I got all your notes that said we would prefer to find it somewhere else as well. So I'm going to work on that. Self-publishing, there's some challenges there, but I'll look at that for you all. But you can currently find it on Amazon in digital, paperback, and hard copy format. So go ahead and check that out. So thank you for the ones who've already purchased it and helped us become number 2. If we sell a couple more, we might become number 1. And that would be kind of cool. So thank you all very much for that support over the weekend and on the book as well. Now, we're here for a very important reason. Oh, there we go. It's not for the coffee, Clay, but I'm going to still do it with you. Good morning, Clay. I really appreciate you coming back. Rumble this time, too. Thank you. To everybody on Rumble, thank you for watching there. You're growing faster than YouTube. This is where we're going to be focusing a lot of our efforts on. YouTube, they can take a height with their sensitivity and their strikes. Rumble, that's where it's at. Thank you very much to everybody there. Give me a subscribe as well. Give me a thumbs up. We're going to keep growing, okay? We're going to keep growing. Thank you all very much. But the reason we're here today is to continue with the Coutts Four, right? Coutts Four. And we got some news over the weekend that we'll cover on today's show as well. And Donald's also done some great work at taking a look at what we can see with the evidence. So he'll have some conversation on that. Tomorrow, it looks like we're going to have some gun experts on to take us through that table and talk about the legalities of them, the use of them, whether or not these are very dangerous weapons at all. One of them might be a vet. I'm trying to get a vet in here who understands tactically what these weapons could be used for, to maybe kind of show that, they might look like there's something dangerous, but they may not be. But anyways, we're going to have a gun expert on tomorrow. Today, we are expecting Jacklyn to return. And Jacklyn is the wife, I believe it's the wife, or common law wife, or married wife, but the wife of Jerry. So we'll be hearing from her again. She did come on over the weekend. But we're going to have her up. And then also Granny's going to be back. And Granny just popped in right now. And Donald's in. So let's go ahead and get started today. Good morning, Donald. And good morning, Granny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Granny.
How are you? First, let's start with Granny. How was the rest of the whistle stop for you?
Oh my gosh. It was amazing. There was like 3,000 people there. And I'm sure I hugged 1,500 of them. Like every time I turned around, it was really positive.
Yeah.
I'm not used to people recognizing me. I'm not used to people getting all excited when they see me.
Get used to it, Granny. Get used to it, Granny. We're going to make stuffed dolls out of you. We'll make plushes out of you. Get used to it.
Yeah. And, but I'm a surrogate. And that's what I felt. I'm the surrogate to the men. And, so every hug I received was for them. I received $5,000 in donations from the people there, which was
Wonderful
extremely
work.
positive. And yeah, it was amazing. The love that was felt, the people that are awake. People are nervous about donating into electronics, so they were happy to donate cash.
Gosh,
So
yeah.
that's why we need to get out and about.
Yeah, and I think that's why they had attacked the donations last year, both of them. They did that for that kind of purpose, to scare people away from that. So was the
Definitely.
whistle stop meant for the Coutts Four, or was it a Canada Day celebration that included the Coutts Four?
It was a Canada Day celebration. It needed to be a Canada Day celebration. Chris Barber was there, and his conditions and restrictions are he's not to partake in any form of rally or anything like that. So
It's a
convoys were asked
celebration.
not, yeah, convoys were asked not to come in as convoys. It was a Canada Day celebration that celebrated the Coutts Four.
That's incredible that we have to be super careful on what we even label and call a grouping of people, because bail conditions and the government's ability to kind of scare the entire group. That is, what kind of world are we in that we can't even get together and say, hey, we are even protesting about something without somebody getting arrested or dragged to jail? So that was your situation. If you guys called that even a protest in support of the Coutts Four, Chris could be in trouble, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're all very careful of each other and very aware of what's going on in our surroundings. So we just celebrated, and then there were a few tables, like, you know, the coffee couple. There was other people doing jewelry, hoodies, etc. And part of their donations were going to the Coutts Four. And then there was a couple. We did have a few auctions up on the stage that was fun, and it was for the Coutts Four. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, the awareness to them it made my heart so full of love, because I could not believe how many people were aware. So it's working. Like even the bumper stickers, somebody was in Carstairs, Alberta, and saw a bumper sticker and did not know about the Coutts Four until they saw the bumper sticker. So old school can work.
Absolutely. And old school is very persistent. You don't have to have internet for it. You'll see it everywhere. Absolutely. And what I'd like to do is get some bumper stickers. I'll put one up on the set so we can see it as well.
Okay.
So we'll share that link, and I'll also grab some as well. And I got a vehicle I can slap it on too. So Donald, you also had a Canada Day. We dragged you into the show to talk to you about what Granny was mentioning earlier in the show, and I do appreciate you jumping on at that time. How was the rest of your weekend, and what did you end up doing with the rest of your time?
Oh, I knocked off the honey-do list, about 10 things on it, and yeah, it was really good. And I changed diapers and had a wonderful time chasing a 3-year-old around the backyard. It was just a great day. Great day.
That's a perfect way to spend it.
That's it. And as I said, you know, I got up on Canada Day and I was a little depressed, a little upset where we are. By the time noon arrived and I talked to my friends and family and read everything, and I was just filled with optimism. I still am really filled with optimism that that we're doing a good job. And as Granny says, old school allows us to defeat the censorship. And you know, we really do have quite an impression out there. As I was telling you before the show, I am fully convinced that withholding bail for the Coutts Four is politically motivated. It's a political act. As I keep telling people, we have an accused cop killer out on bail in Toronto, but they're not going to put those guys with ankle bracelets or whatever they could do. They're not doing that. So that's a political act, which leads me to wonder, are the charges political too? Was the evidence gathering political? Is there exculpatory evidence, evidence that proves they're not guilty, proves they're innocent, that has been left unturned? And then I see some requests from the, you know, reading some of the accounts in the newspapers that we're allowed to know about the trial. Yes, I am really moving to a position where I'm looking at these charges, maybe the police investigation, as politically motivated and impacted. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. And when you started this last week, so you're 1 week into this now, and when you started last week, you were very clear that you're not jumping on a bandwagon, you're not rah-rahing anything.
Nope.
You're going to take a look at the evidence and let it follow you to whatever conclusion or thoughts you come up to. So in a week's time, you've been looking over things, talking to your friends, behind the scenes, digging into all articles, including CBC, reading everything that you can get your hands on. And after a week of talking with Granny and looking at this, you're pretty convinced it's politically motivated, this particular arrest, and possibly more going on with the evidence, is what you're saying?
Sure. Yes, I really believe so.
Wow.
Look, I've been around evidence in courts for decades. And I've seen where evidence has been finagled, has been fabricated totally out of thin air. I've seen where evidence has been presented in a certain way that's dishonest. It's not accurate, but no one can say they're lying, but it's done in that way. And I read an account in the CBC, which is a few weeks old, June 13th, about the trial has been delayed because the defense lawyers are asking for more evidence. And they, to me, after reading the article, looks like they've caught out some evidence that has been withheld. And this is what normally happens. There's disclosure. So the Crown gives disclosure. And then the lawyers look through it, and as it says in the article, a lot of this disclosure was at the very last moment.
Yeah.
And that's done sometimes because there's just a lot of work and people don't get it together. Come on.
You're being kind.
This is a year and a half ago, okay?
Remember, they did the POEC already in that time, so they should have had things ready.
Exactly. Okay. So no, I'll say that this is strategic.
Yes.
And once again, the reason that you do an act like that, and you've been in courts, you know.
Yeah, there's two good reasons they do that.
Yeah. One of the reasons that they do that is because they want to hide evidence. So they bury it in 1,000 documents that they give you the Friday before the Monday trial.
Yep.
And the other reason they do it is because they're simply being unfair. There's a political agenda. They're desperate to have these people convicted.
Yeah, so that would be another one. Another second reason or third reason could be to force the other side to ask for a delay. So you give them so much work that they ask for a delay, and that's exactly what happened in this case. So the defense asked for a delay now because they have a mountain to go through. So that would be another reason to do this.
Exactly. But not only do they have a mountain to go through, it may well be that in the materials they've already been given, that they've spotted indications that there are other materials being withheld, notes, recordings, changes, draft reports, all of these things. You know, they try and hide things. They try and leave out a page here or leave out a page there. You've got a memo book from page 20 to 35 and page 27 is missing. That's a key. What's on page 27? We want to see page 27. And sometimes they do that because they don't want to give it to you. They think you'll miss it. And oftentimes defense lawyers miss it. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is where we see appeals and stuff because they find stuff after the fact and they try and bring in new evidence or new discovery. Like this is one way to open an appeal is something comes to light. And sometimes that happens. They actually find it later in the disclosure.
Very tough to bring in new evidence on an appeal.
It's tough.
You know that.
It's tough.
Very tough.
It's one of the little cracks that you can open.
I know. Yeah. But it's tough.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm looking at the evidence, and once again, I'll go back to this photo of the guns, and this is what concerns me. But I don't know. Should I try and share my screen? Can I
give it a shot? Yeah, if you just have a browser tab. While you're doing
All
that,
right.
let me just bring Granny on, and we'll talk quickly about the
Sure.
evidence portion while you're figuring that part out. So, Granny, on the weekend, you mentioned, and not much at all, because you don't have much to share, and they were very silent in the court about what was going on and what was in the actual application. So we don't know any of those details. But what we do know is something was discovered. Now, that can mean something was found, or there was a hole found, or there's a document missing that was discovered. We don't know what discovered means, but something was discovered by the defense. So likely what Donald's saying here is because they were able to get a bit of an adjournment, they were able to go through some of this, and maybe they found something. Like he said, maybe page 27 is missing, or there is a needle in that haystack. Again, we don't know what it is, but it was enough to cause an application to be filed, and the court's taking that application seriously. Would that be a good little summary of what we found out on Saturday?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of go through what we saw when we walked in. So when we came in, typically there's 3 members from the Crown, and none of them were there. And the day prior, on Wednesday, they had been told they didn't need to attend. And if they needed to attend, they would be told. So that was kind of weird. I thought, okay, this is different. And I kept hearing another name, but I didn't know who the name was. I'd never heard it before. And so come Thursday, when we entered the room, there was a different man sitting in the Crown area. And that was the name I was hearing. So then they started talking. And as the one lawyer said, she was talking encrypted, trying to make, like she was saying, it's sensitive material. It's an anomaly. It's unprecedented. These are the words she's using. And
now that she is the defense attorney?
Yes.
Okay. One of them.
Yes.
Jerry's the attorney?
No, Tony's.
Okay. Tony's attorney. Okay.
So Tony Ralston. So anyhow, she's speaking, and so her and the Crown, and also, I don't know Catherine's last name. She's for Chris Carbert. And then Jerry's lawyer, Greg, is there. And then Chris Lysick's lawyer is online.
Great.
So they start talking, and they're talking about the material, and it sounds like it's in a sealed envelope. So nobody has seen it. The judge hasn't seen it. The only people that have seen it are the defense lawyers. And the person representing the Crown would like to take it and show it to the other Crown. And they said, well, we can't do that because the previous Crown could be a witness. So that was different. And then it came out a little bit later, a witness or a defendant. So, and the room is full. You got to remember, we're hanging on every word because none of us knows what's going on. Because it's not about our men. And
they're being cryptic too. So
yes. So we're all listening. And then it talks about the counsel, or the RCMP should have counsel in the room. Okay. And then we hear something about, I think it was called, and you got to remember, I'm not into legalese. I don't know who these people are. I don't know much about law or anything. Law Society was
Law Society of Alberta.
Yeah. And, so there was a lot of stuff going on, and it was very vague, but the Crown did want to see it. The defense doesn't want to show it because they could be, it was kind of going back and forth. And all I know, and like I said, when Jacklyn gets on here, she may understand this a little bit more than I do. It was July 25th is the last thing we heard. And
that's awesome. So some things there that are pretty important for people to grab onto. The Law Society involvement, they are not involved for criminal or civil matters against licensees. They don't get involved in those. That's still the criminal system and the civil system. So if you dislike your lawyer and you think you can sue him for something, you can do civil that. And if the lawyer did something criminal, it would go through the criminal side. What the Law Society is aware of and what they work on is misconduct. So if there's misconduct within the profession, that's where they get involved. And that could be a whole bunch of things, And it also can lead to criminal or civil after as well. It doesn't mean that there isn't any criminal or civil if the Law Society is involved, but it does mean that there's likely, because all they really do is investigate misconduct. So somebody with a license in that room may have did something that's been reported to the Law Society for them to take a look at. The RCMP lawyering up, I think that's a very incredible indicator. Now, I think what you said is somebody suggested they should, or did they actually say they were? I'm not sure if I'm clear around how that may have come out.
From what I understood, for them to come and everybody look at what was going on, that they should have that in place.
Okay. Now, what other parties are there? So there's the RCMP, there's the Crown, there's the four men. Is there anybody else involved? Like, does the government of Alberta or Canada have anybody represented there?
Not that I know of. Like there were witnesses that had been attending for the pre-trial. I don't know if any of them are part of this because, again, we don't really know what they were talking about. So
no, fair enough. They're being cryptic on purpose.
Very.
Too. Yeah. So they're talking like you would if you want to go out and your parents are watching, but you don't want to say anything. Totally get it, and I've seen it, and I've also understand that there was an interaction with this lawyer and the judge, where the judge was kind of skeptical at one point, but the lawyer pulled the "trust me" card on the judge and said, "Kind of, look, listen, this is real."
Yes, yeah. He said, I think it was when the words were said, the Crown could be a witness and or a defendant. And the judge kind of went, well, I highly doubt that. And then she said, and I can't remember the exact words, but it was like, trust me, it's real.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And also typically when they use the term sealed, it doesn't necessarily physically mean sealed. It just means can't be published to the public at this stage. So the judge may have read it before coming in or not.
I think so. No.
Okay.
I think it actually was in a sealed envelope. The way they were talking, whatever the documents are, no one can see them. The judge has not seen them.
Well, at that point, probably true. At
that point, yes.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure pretty soon after he was looking at them because he's got to decide what's going on too. And then I guess in the parting message was first the gentlemen looked like they were excited and they weren't having a problem with what was going on. But did the judge make a comment around whether or not he's looking at justice here, or whether or not people should be keeping an eye on some justice coming?
Not much was said. Like it just kind of stayed at that point. And again, like that comment just said, like, I'm just a grandma in a courtroom listening to a bunch of legalese stuff.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
And so, yeah, and again, we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So 25th is the next one. I am confirmed I'll be there. I'll work with you on the arrival date, but I'll definitely be there for the 25th. And to let everybody know, I plan on streaming from the courthouse steps. So if you want to come and be on the show, say hi, come nice and early, and let's make a nice big group of support there. Because I would kind of like the judge to have to drive through the support that that we have there. Doesn't have to be anything aggressive at all, for sure. We are not that side. But to see all the bodies in the white shirts and all the love and support would be a good thing, I think. So I'll be there at 6 a.m. Getting my stream started, and we'll just see where that day goes. So Donald, on those notes, you got more of a recap. We didn't have a bunch of trucks going by. We didn't have to deal with wind. So we heard Granny very clearly this time. And what did you think about her breakdown of what happened in court? First on Wednesday, where they said, hey, look, tomorrow the men don't have to come, but you can. If we need you, we'll call you, but it's up to you, because tomorrow is going to be about this other guy. Oh, and Granny, what is the original Crown's name? Was this Scott or something like that?
Stephen Johnson.
Stephen. Okay, Stephen. I needed that because I keep referring to him as Scott. So thank you for that, Stephen Johnson. So Donald, with that information a lot clearer, what are you thinking?
Well, that's great, and it just raises more questions and more red flags for me. First of all, if ever you're in court, civil, criminal, family court, and someone says, oh, there's something happening tomorrow, but you don't have to come, come.
Yeah, come.
Okay, don't let them do that to you. And that's a big red flag. Oh, we want to do something behind your back. It's okay. That's interesting.
Well, there's two reasons. It's also what may happen here is the other people are in trouble and you don't have to see it. But you're absolutely right. Go to every single hearing, whether they say you should be there or not. Try and get there.
Especially if they say especially if they say, "Oh, it's only a minor administrative detail. You don't have to appear, Mr. Best." Or,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, don't do that. The other thing is, the judge showed his bias when he heard that the Crown Attorney may be a defendant, and he no way. Well, yeah, listen, what he's really saying is that's a member of the club.
Right,
Member of the
you're
club wouldn't do anything, and they circled the wagons right away, because lawyers and ex-lawyers, now called judges, all went to school together. It's a big club. All you have to do is look at the complaint statistics to the Law Society and whatever comes of it. The Toronto Star did a marvelous article, a series called Broken Trust a few years ago, about how the Ontario Law Society of Ontario covered up over 200 incidents where lawyers committed criminal offenses against their own clients. And we're not talking just stealing money, and it was a wide range of activities. So it's a club, and as George Carlin says, and you ain't in it.
Well, I am. So I can tell you a bit more about it.
I know you are, but all I'm saying is, when I heard that, I just shook my head, because although that sounds like nothing to everybody listening, to me, it's just confirmation of what I know from years in this system. And the same with the police. I used to be a club member of the police. So I just wanted to point that out, because it just shows something that a judge didn't say, oh, that's most concerning. He said, no way. So
yeah.
So that,
let me talk on that one just a little bit, Don, because you're right. So he's absolutely right. That was a bias that the judge showed. He already had in his mind that this doesn't happen. Now, I just want to highlight a little bit to Don a couple things. The judges hear that all the time. Every single claim, criminal or otherwise, they always hear how the other side's lying, they're criminals, and there's no way they should be doing it. I mean, pointing to the Crown. So I'm sure that this judge hears that basically in every single case. And that's why he would hit it with skepticism. And you're also very, very right that when it comes to the Law Society, it's a club and they take care of themselves. I'm actually dealing with an issue where I'm watching that happen real time. You're absolutely right. The only caveat, if there is one, the only caveat is when it's a lawyer who also says it. So when it's a club member who says, trust me, this is real, that's the one exception I think that judges and club members will accept and raise their eyebrow to, because it's a club member on a club member. When it's non-club member on the club member, yeah, you're 100% right. They don't even listen. It could be a whole bunch of people that have credibility talking about somebody. Even the police say, yeah, we're charging this guy, and the Law Society still ignores it. But when it's one of their members on one of their members, that's when an eyebrow does go up. It doesn't mean the bias will change, and it doesn't mean the judge will take the word of anybody, but it does mean that door opens up a little bit more than it would if it was a non-member mentioning that. And that's just from experience, because I have seen where judges did exactly this. They said, there's no way that could be the case. And then a lawyer says, Judge, on my license, on my profession, on my credibility and my reputation, I'm telling you, no, there's more to it. And then because they're club members, they kind of take a second look at that. So I'm optimistic that, yes, you're right. He did show a bias there, because immediately he dismissed it as potentially that bad. But then when the lawyer says, look, we're in the same club here, and I'm telling you this is real, I think that would at least open his mind to the potential. That maybe there's more here.
I think you're correct. I think you're correct there. But my intent was to show
you're bias. Right. There was bias. Yeah, and there's bias immediately.
It's built in.
100%. In fact, there's bias from the filing from the Crown's position and on. That entire time you are guilty till proven innocent. Even though they say you're not, you are. As soon as you become a defendant, you are attacking the evidence against you. You're bringing forward your own evidence. You're looking for the exculpatory evidence. You're doing a lot of work to prove your innocence, even though they say you're innocent until proven guilty. So you're right, Donald, from the very beginning.
Exactly. Now, I did want to point out something. Now, look, this is old information. things might have changed, but when I was a police officer, a sergeant detective with Toronto Police, we had a standing order that if we were investigating a lawyer, unless there were highly unusual circumstances, the Law Society had to be notified, and it had to be done through the chain of command. And usually, and I've been there, when you're investigating a lawyer or a Crown attorney, usually either the Attorney General, if it's Crown attorney, or the Law Society, if it's just a lawyer, will be allowed a window on the investigation that we would never allow anyone else. Now,
Right.
whether that still happens or not, I don't know. Now, there's good reason for that, because there are, the profession operates with a set of rules and standards that most of us don't really understand. You know, the layers and the traditions and the rules and the standards.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also an acknowledgement that the Law Society of Ontario and the legal profession are incredibly powerful. And so, back in the day, the police made it a standing order that the Law Society would be notified and participate if necessary. So what does that mean for what's happening here? I don't know if the RCMP have that. I don't know the standards right now, but the presence of the Law Society may not indicate a simple breach of the standards of the Law Society. It may well indicate a potential criminal investigation involving, well, that Crown is the only one who's mentioned as being a defendant, but also the RCMP. And I've thought, look, I've thought of all different scenarios, as you have, about what this could be. And I've got about a dozen of them, and some of them are wild, but some of them, let's suppose this, because we're going to talk about evidence and faking evidence and such. Suppose the RCMP planted, fabricated evidence, or left out evidence, or presented evidence maliciously in a way that ignored exculpatory evidence of innocence.
Right.
And suppose the Crown got into bed with the RCMP on that. Suppose the Crown knew, but concealed. I mean, you see where I'm going here. And the reason I go down that path is I've seen that happen. I have seen that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen all sorts of evidence problems, some of which were accidental, some of which were absolutely malicious, vindictive, deliberately done in order to attain a conviction that probably shouldn't be obtained. And when you're ready, or if you think it would work, I have a story about a financial institution fabricating evidence.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can get to it. I'm not sure when Jacklyn's joining us.
Sure,
we definitely have your screenshot ready to go as well, so we'll be able to take a look at that. Before we go there, I'm going to run back to Granny. So, Granny, now that you've heard Donald and I talk a bit about how the Law Society worked, how the police department in Toronto worked when it came to lawyers, they kind of got a window for investigation on criminal stuff. We talked a little bit about maybe why the RCMP might be trying to lower up at this stage. Now, what's kind of your take as we analyze a little bit of it? Are you a little bit more optimistic? Are you kind of settled down a bit more? Or are you getting concerned?
Well, right now it gives us hope, because we all know in our hearts there's 4 truths to this story, and the 4 men have not been allowed to share their truth. You got to get into a courtroom and they can't share their individual stories. So that I find concerning, because that's locked up. They're not allowed to come out. What are we at? 505 days? Like
505, yeah.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder why their stories are being held back, and why the court and the judge was not happy about how close the court date was getting to Jordan. He's mentioned that a few times, and he did mention if the lawyers, the Crown, everybody could not get together and make dates, he was going to make them, and you can attend or you don't attend.
Right. He wants us to go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jacklyn. So I'm going to go to Jacklyn. I have a moment here. So good time. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good as well. And I noticed that there is an E on the end of your name. We've spent some time trying to find that out because the CBC reported you without an E. And so I guess they kind of don't know how to spell over there. But good morning.
Fake news all the way around.
Right there, even on your name. Fake news. As soon as my wife said the CBC has it without an E, I said, they're probably wrong then. Let's keep looking. And then we found, sure enough.
My mom was Charlie's Angels fan, so this is the Jacklyn Smith spelling, but she put the E on the end so that it would be a little bit different. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Dylan is completely correct. They don't do anything right, even getting the spelling of names. Right. So good morning. And I hope you had a good time at the whistle stop and you got as many hugs as Granny was getting. It sounds like she was handing them out. She should have charged for them.
I definitely got one from her on Saturday.
How is it? I'm waiting for mine. I haven't gotten one yet.
They're fantastic. Everyone should have a granny hug for sure. I've got a few granny hugs though too. I met a lady that was there came all the way from Ontario. She was visiting her daughter and her grandkids, and we had a great chat. And yeah, it's pretty amazing, honestly, to see how many older folks, I say older, sorry, Granny, I don't mean to say that, but older folks, my parents' age, let's put it that
way.
The
wiser generation.
Yeah, exactly.
The one with two bathrooms only.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The ones that can understand basic math and basic biology. So they're kind of my people. So yeah, it's awesome to see how much support we have in that demographic, because it tends to be split up. So we do see a lot of people in that age group that are out to support us. So we're very thankful for that, because obviously people should look up to their elders, and follow their lead.
Wise,
so
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, they've seen a lot of BS, right? They've been around the block a lot. They know what garbage looks like, and they can smell it a lot better than the younger generation. And I'm not surprised that a larger portion of the wiser generation is smelling something here. So yeah, I'm sure you still have a bunch of millennials that watch the CNN and stuff like that they don't care, but the older ones, they can smell it. So I guess you were seeing that. Now, you had a good time there and you met a lot of people. So you were in high spirits. You were in good spirits after Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to be anyways. I mean, I think people sometimes are shocked when they actually get to run into me, that I'm not just a pile on the ground. It's don't get me wrong, I certainly have my days, but it's hard to be in shambles when you're surrounded by people who believe in you and are supporting you. So it's, for myself, I'm in my best spirits when I'm around other people, especially, whatever you want to call it, freedom-loving people, Canadian-loving people, justice-loving people. So it's really hard to be, a big black cloud when you have some, really good, high-spirited people around you. So that certainly helps me a lot. Also, Jerry is on the inside. He's the one that's dealing with all of the major backlash of the situation, the one that's kind of going through it. And so I feel like I have an obligation to him to keep my poop in a group out here. So, he wouldn't be doing as well as he is doing if every time, he heard from me or heard from someone else, it was that I was, in a bad way, or that I was kind of going through it. So, I tell people someday when this is over, I might fall apart. I don't know, but the glue's holding me together right now, and that's what's important. And that's what I keep my focus on, is that Jerry needs me, and he needs me to be in good shape. So I do my best to self-care and make sure that that's happening. So
Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. The support, and people forget about this. Yes, there's 4 men inside, but there's also people who care dearly about them and children that are on the outside that are also having to hold themselves together and keep their heads high. So I really appreciate that the community is getting together. And if this is all the show does for you, is it keeps your spirits high, we've nailed it. We've done what we were looking to do. If we can get more out of it, that's even better. So I appreciate the fact that you're sharing that with us as well. And thank you for joining us on Saturday, even with the trucks going by in the wind, and then at one point a little robotic stuff. We got you on and we enjoyed it. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
So what I'm going to do is did you catch the beginning of the show? Because what we're doing is we're getting into some depth.
I didn't. I was busy trying to get my earbuds paired to my laptop because I didn't want to end up being the echoey one that needed to do technical difficulties. So I was kind of busy getting those hooked up. So I did miss it.
That's awesome. But you can always replay it, but we can give you a quick recap. Donald and I started to look at the evidence over the weekend. Donald's prepared to start talking about the table of evidence. And Donald, over the last week and with all of his investigation, with all of his contacts, with all the information he's gone through, has now taken the position that he believes this is a political prisoner situation. It's too political. So we were about to get into how he came to those kind of conclusions in a week's time. And I think he's starting with the guns. So if you don't mind, we'll go throw Donald on, we'll get his screen on, and we'll start looking at this stuff. And by the way, good morning. All right, Donald, you did a great job and your screen is there. So let me just bring that up. There
Fabulous.
we go. Now you control it. You control it, so you can do whatever you want on that screen.
Okay. So what do we have here? Interesting. Okay. First of all, this came from an article on June 13th of this year by CBC. And what I'm going to focus in on is what we know in the evidence. And you know what? We don't know much. I want to say that we don't know much. It's being hidden from us. That's at the request of the defense lawyers, and that's good because they don't want to pollute the jury pool. Also because the police and the Crown Attorney have presented, and politicians have presented the worst of the worst, or absolutely nothing, but presented in a sinister manner. And I think we'll get into this because a lot of what we've seen, this picture illustrates to me the political nature of the evidence gathering and presentation, and also some very unprofessional things that have been done that compromise the integrity of the evidence. Mm-hmm. So what do we have here? Well, according to the CBC, Alberta RCMP submitted a photo of what they say is a cache of firearms and ammunition found in 3 trailers near a 2002 blockade of the Canada-US border, submitted by the RCMP. Now, I have to go back and check the articles. I didn't want to do that right now, but I have some banged up that I'll have a look at when we get through this. But I want to see when this was presented, how soon after the arrests and the raids, and I suspect it was fairly soon. But let's look at what we have here. We have an RCMP car parked in the background at an angle to the wall. This is not how you usually park a car in a garage, in the RCMP garage. That's not, sorry?
So it's staged. They did that on purpose.
Exactly. So we put the RCMP car behind the table of weapons. Now, this is not a photograph that would be used in evidence. This is not a photograph that has evidentiary value. As a matter of fact, it undermines the investigation, and I'm going to get into that too. But first of all, what do we have here? We have the RCMP logo. We have everything spread out. Now this says it was seized or found in 3 trailers. You know, we heard other evidence that there was a home raided and that firearms were found there or something was found there. That came from another article at the time that I found. So this, my question is, are these firearms from the 3 trailers? Were there firearms found in a home?
Just let me correct something here.
Yeah, go ahead.
When they say 3 trailers, Joanne's home is a mobile home. So they referred to the 3rd one as a trailer, but it's a mobile home. So yeah, that's the house.
Well, they're saying 3 trailers. Don, if you scroll down, they're showing the 3 trailers in this article. So there's a mobile home, like Granny said, and then 2 trailers beside it.
2 holiday trailers.
Yeah, sorry, there's a different article. I got it right here, Donald.
Yeah, okay.
So just give me a sec so we can bring that up just to clarify what's going on there. I'll share screen.
Donald, I can tell you that picture was presented to me during my interrogation on February the 14th. So that's how soon that picture appeared, FYI.
Yeah, I was
You're
looking
talking about the table full of weapons.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So here's 3 trailers. So two that are towed, and then the house they're calling a trailer. It looks like, Donald.
Right. But I understood, and maybe Granny or somebody, and I don't want to get into revealing things that, but it was in the newspaper. I read that they did a warrant on a home that I don't think was a trailer, that it was offsite somewhere else, and they found other weapons. Is that?
Well, that's the confusion, Donald. So they're calling the house a trailer and a house. It depends on which story you're reading.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did raid my home. I can tell you that for sure. My house was raided, and 1 firearm was taken, but the listed firearm in the disclosure does not match the firearm that was taken from our home. But that was done sometime on the night of February 14th after I had seen this picture presented to me. So it definitely was not part of the picture that you're looking at.
Okay. So
because that was after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes, what we have is a situation where a number of places were raided, a number of weapons were found, and here they are presented shortly after the raid on the table. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about what they've done here. First of all, they've laid it all out as a promotional, a political statement. It really is. It's a political statement. It's we did a good job, but it's also, look at this.
Right.
Look at how bad these people are. Some of these rifles are painted black. Oh my goodness. And we'll get into that tomorrow with the firearms expert, I hope. How do you change a hunting rifle into a military rifle? Well, it seems like you paint it black these days and that'll do it. But in any event, what they've done here is they've taken weapons from different locations. Very soon after the raid, you can tell they've got tags on them, and they've put them all together on this table. Now, I remind everyone that when we had that mass murder down east, that shooting, and we had the commissioner of the RCMP ask the homicide investigators to release the photos of the weapons so that the government could use it for political purposes. They rebelled, they refused, they recorded her, and that all came out. It was a disgusting attempt to use the police for political purposes that would have undermined that investigation, because we didn't know where those firearms came from. There was still an ongoing investigation. We didn't want to tell anybody where the firearms came from, because it might have been supplied by some criminal or somebody else. And in fact, I think many of those firearms were smuggled across the border, or the ammunition and such. So the proper procedure in an investigation, an important investigation, is to maintain evidence continuity. That means that we have to We have to also make it confidential so that we don't tell the world what we're doing if it interferes with an ongoing investigation. But if we're going to be fingerprinting weapons, if we're going to be doing DNA on weapons, we don't lay them all out together.
Correct.
And mix them. Nothing here is in a plastic bag. Nothing here is separated. They're all, you can see things are touching each other. This is a photograph that shows the sloppiness of the investigation. Now, once again, I remind you how serious the charges are here.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracy to murder police officers in an armed rebellion against the government.
They're very serious charges, and you would expect the evidence to be treated that way as well. You would expect the evidence to completely be treated properly.
You wouldn't show this evidence to the public because where did that gun on the where did that gun on the left come from? Was that a legal weapon or an illegal weapon? At the time they did this, they probably didn't even know.
Now, you mentioned this was kind of like what they did on the East as well. So we had that shooting in Nova Scotia, and they did the same thing. They paraded out the evidence very quickly.
Well, there was a situation where they didn't parade it out very quickly. The commissioner of the RCMP asked the homicide guys to release the types of weapons and the pictures of the weapons so that the Parliament could, and they refused. They absolutely
so that's refused. The opposite of this. They held back properly.
Exactly. That's
evidence.
My point. Right. Because they were professionals involved in a very serious investigation.
Right.
But here in Alberta, we have supposed professionals involved in a conspiracy, a serious investigation, purportedly. And what do they do? What do they do right away? Look at this. Mm-hmm. This is a political message to Canadians. This is how bad the convoy, the Freedom Convoy, was. This is not a professional investigation. Right. There's going to be no DNA and no fingerprints done on these things.
Let me bring something else up with this evidence that came up I just found as well. You're dead right on everything you're saying here, Donald. And I'm even looking at that stuff there, and it's on butcher paper. It's sitting on the floor. They're all propped up. You can assume that maybe gloves or maybe not gloves, but let me just kind of go to some of the details that they gave us and how it's fallen apart, but yet we are still working with it. First, Jacklyn, I see that they corrected misstatement about you. So they said you were charged with weapons, possession of weapons, and then they dropped that or corrected that. I guess when they did the raid on your place, they didn't find a thing, right?
So actually, they don't know what the heck they're doing because they made this statement, then they corrected it. So the interesting part is that when I was arrested, I was charged with mischief over 5,000 and also the new critical infrastructure bill that Kenny had just put through like weeks before, which I called them out on it because the two charges were worded pretty much exactly the same. So I basically said, like, you need to pick one here. Yeah, you're charging me with the same thing twice. So they sent me in to speak to a lawyer with those two charges, which I did. However, when I was released on bail the following afternoon, I thought I only had one charge of mischief. I didn't find out until I connected with a corrections officer as per my instruction for bail that I had two charges listed there. They had listed out the mischief in detail with a written explanation. And then right below it, they just written a number with CC beside it, which I completely missed. I did not have any legal counsel regarding that charge. It was not spoken about during my bail hearing, but I do have a charge there that is possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, which I absolutely did not understand. So, and was never advised about it, never received counsel. So they corrected themselves, but they were actually right originally. But apparently they were getting that information from the police. The police had no idea what the heck they charged me with.
Wow, thanks for clearing it up. And what's the current situation? You're still on bail pending charges or what's going on there?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. I have, so I do have a mischief over 5,000 and some sort of a possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, which I have no understanding of where that came from or what that entails.
Oh, wow. And are you expected in court soon, or what is your next step in all that?
So I have a pretrial conference coming up in September. I do see that I have some sort of a court date in July. I'm not really aware of what that is. I'll be honest with you. I'm having a really hard time getting good communication from my lawyer, unfortunately. Originally, I had instructed him to, number one, no deals would be considered. And
Right.
number two, I wanted to ensure that I had a jury trial set up. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I didn't find out about that until about mid-December, that my lawyer had acquiesced to the Crown and agreed to allow me to be hooked up or connected to two people that I have no idea who these people are. I've never met them. I couldn't tell you anything about them, but I'm being tried alongside of them. And we were scheduled for a judge-only trial. So I had to have him correct that. So we had, I have no idea why he chose to do that. He had very strict instructions that was not to happen. But unfortunately, sometimes lawyers are more interested in pleasing the Crown than they are to the following instruction from the paying customer that's hired them to do the job. So him and I are still a bit at odds about that. But I had him file a notice of re-election in May or April or May, I can't remember exactly, to get that corrected. So we are moving forward with the jury trial now. I'm not exactly sure where I'm at in being separated from these other two people. So I'm still trying to connect with my lawyer to find out what's happening there. I definitely want an application for separation. Again, I don't know these people. I have no idea what the circumstances are around the charges. I don't believe that I should be connected to people and have their evidence used against me when I don't even know who the hell they are. So, I'm still kind of working away at that. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, sorry, my kitty's trying to get in the thing here. I'm not exactly sure where I'm sitting with that, because again, I've had a bit of difficulty having connecting with my lawyer. He is busy. He's in trials. However, there's a bit of a disconnect there. So I'm still plugging away at that. So I don't have a ton of info. I probably won't have much really good info until after September when I get to that pretrial conference. So which I have asked to attend
in July. And then
exactly. Yes.
Right,
yeah. I've been attending court myself, actually, as of late, just since I found out kind of what happened there in December. I'm just not comfortable not being present. Unfortunately, people making decisions on my behalf without consulting me is a little bit unsettling for me. So I definitely am going to be attending in July to find out what that date is and what it entails, so that I don't miss anything going forward. It's unfortunate, but you have to be very connected and very plugged in these situations. Yeah. For
sure. Yeah. Keep us posted on that, because we're curious how that ends up. I also want to highlight here how the CBC is trying to use a quote out of Marco, infiltrated by an extremist element. I still think that stands, but I think what the CBC is doing is twisting his words, because I don't think he thinks the guys. I think something else is going on. And this is what we also agree. Also, at the beginning of this article, they talk about how Jeremy McKenzie is the connection to an extremist group, and it's what they related these two guys to. Where was it? Yeah, anyways, and I wanted to highlight that this article was written in June 2022. And since then, after the POEC, since then, all of that, it's been shown that Jeremy is not a leader of any type of extremist group. So the connection that they made to this white supremacist extremist group in the CBC has already been shown not to be true anymore. But yet there's no correction on here about that on any of the articles on the CBC. And we know that they do make corrections when they should, because they made one for you, but they're not making corrections for the rest of the story. So this narrative is alive and well, Donald. And I'm going to bring back up your evidence screen. And I just wanted to highlight there that they do make corrections when they believe they need to, but they don't correct everything, because Jeremy has already been cleared of these allegations. Go ahead, Donald. It's all yours, bud. And we have a couple minutes, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. What we have here is the RCMP press release on February 14th, 2022, the same day they did the raids. So that's when they introduced this photograph. And as Jacklyn said, she was shown the photograph on that day. So,
and they were still looking for more guns, according to Jacklyn. So when this photograph was taken, they were still looking for more weapons.
Sure. So, but everything I said is just reinforced by this. Now that these guns have touched each other, now that they've been on the same table, now that they've been shown right away, immediately, what they were, that is not a proper investigation technique, especially in a serious case like this one. So, what we have here is a political presentation of evidence. This was designed for publicity. It was designed to communicate something to Canadians. And if you read this press release, it's all about terrorism and all the rest of it. Okay,
which has since been proven not to be true.
That's right. So
they also took 13 guns and charged 13 of us, FYI. So it's they had the matching number of people to go with the matching number of guns, and I can tell you right now, none of those guns belong to me. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So they made a cache of guns out of bringing lots of people together, is what you're kind of implying there?
Well, I'm just saying that there's 13 people charged, and there's 13 guns. So it's an interesting setup there. Also, to Donald, something for your information as well. And I say I saw this picture. So this picture was used to try to, get information out of me that I was just not able to supply. Sure. And actually, the way it was presented to me, because I certainly questioned everything from this get-go. When the police brought me in, I started calling them out on it, like, you guys tell me what went on here, because I would say this is your story. And so you obviously know more about it than the rest of us. So this picture was brought in, slapped down on the table in front of me. And the first words out of the investigator, I guess, mouth was, "This isn't fake or staged." And I just looked at him and said, well, that's an interesting choice of first words,
That sounds like a guilty conscience to me, Don. What do you think? That sounds like a guilty conscience?
Well, that photograph is staged. It's absolutely staged. Now, did they take photographs in the home when they found it, where it was found? Did they protect it for prints and DNA? No, they didn't. No. We can tell that right now.
Right.
So,
and by the way, by saying it's staged doesn't mean it's fake. We're just saying they staged that photo for a purpose.
Right. And it was a political purpose, I believe, which once again, we have them in denied bail for a political purpose. We have this supposed evidence photograph staged for a political purpose. That's for a political purpose.
And then we actually have the political purpose itself, the EA and the Bill C-21. Like, we actually have the results of these political reasons.
Exactly. And so now we start to wonder about, was the investigation fairly, was it fairly done? Was it complete? Was there evidence of innocence that they have left out? Because when you're investigating to a point for a political reason, and I have to wonder about that now. Well, there we are. That's what we've got so far. But the one last thing I want to talk about is, someone put a question up there about the.
We got this question for you. For Big Don, the Coutts Four situation is sounding more like the government Whitmer, Michigan kidnapping plot, contrived by the FBI as a distinct distraction tactic, a false flag event. Your thoughts?
Okay, we need more evidence. Absolutely, we need more evidence. But for those who don't know, that FBI incident, I think it was like 90% of the people involved were actually FBI operatives or something. I mean, it was just crazy. Which brings me to the point I wanted to make here. We know that there were 2 undercover female operatives who the RCMP inserted, I think RCMP officers, and they inserted them into this group. There were probably others and such, but they were inserted to, I think, get close to the people who are charged, or some of them. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen a photo of them, but I hear they were really good-looking girls. Now, they didn't put in a couple of old guys like me. Maybe they did, but you know, they put in some good-looking girls there. Now, there's a reason for that, and I think we've covered that in another show, because guys are guys, and it doesn't mean they're going to be unfaithful to their wives or girlfriends or anything like that. But you know, we're built like that, and some of the most effective undercover police officers and private investigators I ever worked with were good-looking girls, because just a smile and a wink, and the trust is built. And I'm going to be very anxious to see what their evidence was, what they did. There will be no videos of them, how close they were standing, what perfume they were wearing, whether they gave somebody a little squeeze under the table on the knee. That's a very common, very common undercover technique, believe it or not. So
Yeah.
I'm really anxious to see what the evidence is, and about how these women were inserted and how they acted, and we'll see if there's any evidence that that they were just honey traps. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah. We get it. We've seen the spy movies, and there's certain, you know, Chinese are sending
It's all
some women
real.
into.
Yeah.
It's real world. We get it, and it's unfortunate that is the world we live in, and but that's the way they work. And so, Jacklyn, I'm going to kind of end up with you, and then I'll go down to Granny, and we'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for bringing this new information to us. Thanks for taking some time on your day off to do so. You're welcome back anytime. Hopefully, you can come back Friday as well, and keep us up to date, and let us know what you're doing for your January thing, whenever it is. And if we're down, is it in Lethbridge as well, or are you in a different court for that stuff?
No, everything's in Lethbridge. All of us that had anything to do with anything down there are all being processed through Lethbridge. So, yeah, it sucks 3-hour drive, you know, to get there each time. But yeah, it's July 24th, I believe. It's just the day before the guys go back.
Oh, wow.
I can look it up here off of my.
Okay, well, then we'll probably see you. We'll see you on the 25th for sure, right? You'll be there?
Yes. I'm hoping that I can be. I think I should be able to be okay to be there, because it's not anything to do with the you know, our side of the case. So I think I should be able to be there. I'm hoping I can. I'm going to have to connect with Jerry's lawyer, though, and make sure first before I go. But if not, then I'll at least be there, you know, probably outside hanging out, so that I can get firsthand what's happening inside. So, yeah, I'll probably be there for sure.
So we'll be there starting at 6 a.m. outside the courthouse, so you can come on the show and hang out for a bit. And if you can't get into the courthouse because of your restriction as a potential witness, then yeah, of course, we will relay what we can to you within the realm of law. Like, if we can't tell you, we can't tell you, but we'll keep all that protected. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you at some point soon. Yes, and then Granny. Yeah, and then Granny, the same situation. We'll be seeing you soon. Do you want to say goodbye? And what we'll do is we'll come back again, of course, tomorrow and Wednesday, and continue where we left off. And I think tomorrow we'll also have some gun experts in, possibly a vet, but definitely at least one person who knows almost the serial numbers of everything on that table. And also stick around after the show. I do want to catch up with you on another topic before we let you go, Granny. But you want to go ahead and say goodbye, and we'll get back to this tomorrow.
Yes. So I've been updating the men regularly on what's going on with your show. It gives them hope to know that their stories are being shared. And maybe Jacklyn, if she's not busy on Friday, she could come back and just share Jerry's story and her story of where they were in life to how their world was turned upside down. And it was drastically turned upside down. And how they're dreaming forward, because you have to be able to look forward, which is really difficult when you're in a situation of dead time. I'll see if the others can come on, and maybe on Friday, each family could, not trying to run your show there, Jason, but
no, I'm happy to do this.
Could each have 15 minutes to share who their loved one is and how their lives were. Because these were 4 hardworking men that had good lives. Like, I mean, really good lives. And as one of the men said to me yesterday, they've destroyed my world. They've taken everything from me. And that's where we're at right now. And it would be nice for people to know who these people are. They're good family men. And I think that's important to share that. So maybe on Friday we can get everybody to just share a little bit.
Absolutely. And if you can get the family to send me some pictures and video or something, I can actually get a video ready with that song. So I have another version of that Coutts song. So if the family sends me stuff that they want to show, we will make a video out of it with that music. And then they can share that and have that as well. So pictures, videos, young, old, whatever. If I can get my hands on some of them, Jacklyn, I'm sure you can send some too. We will make a video out of all of that and share it. And yes, we will do a full episode, 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever they want each. We can run long on Friday. We will definitely bring those stories forward because it is important. We've kind of learned who the men are, but now let's learn it from the family. And that would be lovely. Thank you for that recommendation. Well, on that note, everybody, now you know what's coming Friday. And everybody, if you want to stick around, we'll have a quick chat after. But what I'm going to do is sign off now and get ready for my next show, which is with Josh. Oh, man. How did I just have a brain fart on his name? Josh. He's the protester, the young student. I have him on in a couple hours. Thank you, Josh Alexander. Yeah, from Save Canada. Thank you. Wow, I better get ready for that one. I can't miss his name on it. But he'll be on at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon Eastern, so just in a few hours. So if you guys are interested in what Josh Alexander is doing, stick around for that one. But on that note, I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody. I got to get some work done and get ready for that show. So let me just sign off quickly here. Thank you, Granny. Thank you, Jacklyn. And thank you, Donald. Well, folks, Donald said, clearly, there's something wrong with the way they handled the evidence. This isn't professional at all. They rushed it to the stage as if it was a tweet and they were trying to get someone's attention. They didn't even handle it like they handled it in the Eastern Nova Scotia incident. We didn't get the evidence out that quick. There were challenges even in Nova Scotia authorities to get information about the evidence. So these are the same departments, right? RCMP. How come they're treating Coutts super differently? Why are they doing that? Why are they showing Jacklyn the picture of these guns and saying this isn't staged or fake, as some of the first things they say? Guilty conscience? They understand what they've done here? Maybe. But we're going to get some more information. So why don't you all stick around? Join us every morning. It's going to be at 6 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Eastern. Sometimes we run a little bit late, so apologies to those that had to go. But it's important information. So thank you all very much. Come back tomorrow. And also come back for Josh Alexander. I had a brain fart there. And then later today, we also have at 4 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern, we have Tracy Wilson from the Canadian Coalition of Firearm Rights. And I'll be speaking to her tonight about guns, what's allowed to be in your possession, whether or not even this stuff was illegal. And then we'll go into tomorrow with some gun experts as well and continue this conversation. So thank you all very much for being here. And remember, I love you. And God bless.